I once ran away from home at age 16 to California. At the time, I hated living with my parents. They were alcoholics that argued day in and day out. A so-called buddy of mine told me that he could help me out. All I had to do was move to California and help him grow marijuana. Now, when I say marijuana farm, it wasn't a glorious place with facilities. I'm talking growing in the middle of a mountain and hoping to make some money without getting caught. The friend, let's name him Jack. Jack said I have nothing to worry about because so many people do it. Stupid and young, I left my parents' house after briefly telling them that I will no longer be staying with them. They both looked at me and said, "Well, if you think you are grown, then go right ahead." Angered, I stormed off. The first night at the marijuana farm was awesome. Jack didn't tell me much and I didn't ask. All I wanted to do was leave my parents' toxic life. We drank and karaoke all night with people I never knew before. The world around me seemed awesome at that very moment. The next day was time to learn this new type of work, or should I say job. Walking down to the marijuana farm, I was astonished by how many marijuana trees there was. As far as the eyes can see, there was that many. Multiple people were also growing around the area. He told me that I will have to stay here full-time and watch the area just in case there were intruders or people that would come and steal the marijuana trees. He pointed at a shack made of 2x4s and a shingle roof and said, "Here you go. That's where you will be sleeping and resting." My eyes opened wide and thoughts came running through my brain. What in the hell? He laughed and said, "You will get used to it." The day was near, and he told me he will be leaving and will be back in the morning. He gave me a Glock 45 and left. Now, there's no light, but there was a generator, and that thing is loud. So, I told myself I better start getting ready and follow the sun. Right when the night came, I heard a whisper. I stood up and stared into the dark. Am I thinking too much? I told myself. Then someone, or should I say, something called my name. Oh hell no. This time I knew I was not thinking too much. Clear as day I heard it. But then all of a sudden, all I could hear was light whispers that I couldn't grasp what it was saying. Sweat glands were at full throttle while I laid back down in the fetal position trying to calm myself down. Somehow being so tired I knocked out who knows when. A loud bang rattled me and I screamed. It was Jack with big O eyes staring at me. "It's 9 a.m. dude," he said. "I had a rough night," I replied. Chuckling with a smile, "Let's go," Jack rumbled. "Okay, it's the second night now, and I'm getting scared. Losing light, and I'm losing my mind a little here." I know most of you guys are thinking, did I tell Jack what happened? The answer is no. My pride got the best of me. It's the first day of work. I'm no whip, or so I told myself. And if I did, he'd probably just make fun of me. So, no, I didn't tell him. Anyway, it's dark now, and I'm back to the fetal position. Everything's alright, I told myself. Everything was alright until right around 12 midnight. Something was walking outside the shack. I got up brave like Will Smith when he hit Chris Rock and stormed out with the Glock on my right and a flashlight on my left. There was nothing. Not even the wind blew. No crickets, no moon. Pitch dark was the answer. Must have scared whoever thought I wouldn't come out, I told myself. 1 o'clock, another sound came from outside. This time, I slowly creeped out, making no noise, trying to see if I can find this intruder stealing. I walked about 20 yards away from the shack, turned to my right, and flashed the light at a humongous tree. That was my biggest mistake. A figure sat on one of them branches. It had a long white dress on. Looked like a wedding dress from old times movie. It was a woman around the age 50. There was nothing scary about her except she had arms and feet that was way longer than it should be. She smiled at me with a grin and waved for me to come closer. Then she whispered a whisper I couldn't understand, but somehow I could hear it. No way in hell this is happening. That tree is at least 40 yards out and I can hear it? I froze in shock. Slowly the woman in white crawled down the tree. I ran for the shack. I could hear the woman crying. Her moans got louder and louder. Then it stopped and a laughter shocked me. It was right in my ears. She said, "I've been waiting so long for you. Please don't leave me." For a second the world had stopped around me. I froze, nowhere to go. Stuck in the shack, all I could do was pray. If I could just go home and be back at my cozy room, I will do anything. My alarm rang. It was 8 a.m. This was all a dream? It felt so real. How can my imagination be so vivid? I barely know the surrounds. Brushing it off for the second time, I walked outside to start the day. Jack was going to be here any minute now, and I didn't want to disappoint him. First things first, I have to go open the water line to start watering the trees. Slowly, I walked towards the water tote, which in this case was close by the tree that I remember dreaming about. My heart started racing, but I held on to positive thoughts. When I was closer, I glanced around the tree branches for reassurance. Sitting on one of the branches was a white cat. That cat just stood there and stared at me. Goosebumps raised from my skins as I watched the cat, hoping that this little thing better not jump down and come towards me. Not wasting any more time, I power walked to the water toad, opened the valve, and ran from that dreadful tree. Jack finally came, and I told him my encounters. He was puzzled when I told him that I was seeing and hearing things around his property. I asked him if he ever sleep at the farm, and he said he has, but it's only when he's too drunk to drive back home. The only time he sleeps at the farm is if Jack brings some friends over and they hang out late. Jack comforted me and told me that maybe it's a new place and we are in the middle of nowhere, that's why I'm thinking so much. I told him that I wanted to go back home if things don't get better, and he just nodded in agreement. Let's finish watering these damn plants and take a rest. I'll go grab some meat and we can barbecue, he said. I was relieved when he told me that. I'll be back in an hour and we can chill for the rest of the day. Okay, I replied. Bored as usual, I walked around the immediate surround looking at things to see if anything was interesting to see. A man approached the front gate and waved at me as if he wanted to speak to me. It looked like one of the neighbors that I met on my first day back. I started walking towards him and told him to hop the gate. This gate is roughly 50 yards from the shack, so this guy said if it's okay for him to drive on in. I got to the gate and hopped in his car. While driving to the shack, this guy asked me, "Hey, you know why Jack don't sleep here much, right?" "What are you talking about?" I replied. Well, in the past, there was a couple that stayed in this area. The wife and husband got to an argument. He claimed that the wife was talking to other guys. This couple disappeared for several weeks, and when the neighbor noticed, they went into the property to check if they were okay. While the neighbor walked around the property, there was a strong rotting smell coming from the tall tree beside the field. When they got to the bottom of the tree and looked up, there hung the wife. She had been there for a while. Her now long neck was about to snap from her body and maggots had infested her eyes and mouth. Her dark purple tongue dangled on the side. The husband ran off when he found out that the wife had hung herself that day. He didn't tell anyone and simply left. The cops came to investigate, and I don't know what happened after that. Well, damn, I've been having all kinds of weird things happening to me these past few days, I said. Well, I'm Robert, and I suggest you leave this place if it's this early in the game and you're seeing things. Okay, I'm going to tell Jack that I'll be leaving tomorrow, then I answered. Jack told me to come hang out, but it was nice meeting you, Robert replied. Oh, and don't tell Jack I told you about this husband-wife situation, he said. Jack finally came back, and we started drinking. Around 10 p.m., these two guys left me all alone again. I was drunk, so my mind didn't think much. I stumbled into the shack and laid down. The door slowly creaked open, and I tried lifting my eyes. My eyes was so tired I could barely lift them up. There was a black figure darker than the dark standing by the door. It walked towards me and sat on top of me. I couldn't move. Is this what they call sleep paralysis? The shadow was on top of me. I couldn't move. I have heard that if you try to spit or move, and you do manage to do that, it will break the paralysis. So here it goes. I try for what seems like hours. Then the shadow grabs me by the throat. The hands was cold and sweaty. Maggots fell on my face. What seems like rotting blood dripped down her head, hitting my face. I cried in fear and called for my God. Please help me. I don't remember much after that, but I woke up the next day with my alarm blaring at me. You know what? I have not showered in 3 days. I'm getting out of here. Jack arrived around 10 a.m. I walked up to him and demanded him to take me home. He was puzzled and wanted an explanation. I can't do this no more. I'm stressed and miss my bed. Oh, I thought you was having a good time, Jack replied. Just take me home, please, like today. I did go home that day, well, that afternoon. So this is my story of how I survived 3 days in the mountains trying to grow marijuana. The fear is real. I still get nightmares till this day. That woman in white will forever be in the back of my mind. I hope you find your loved one and leave my mind in peace. I will never go back to the damn mountain of California.